What's going on, everybody? Sloth here. Hope you're having an awesome day and welcome to my guide of Book Almighty. Now in this guide I'm going to be going over Book's optimum loadout, I'm going to be going over his gadget, the skeleton key, and what your goal should be in a typical round when playing Book. Jumping right into it, Book is a 2 armor, 2 speed attacking operator hailing from the Canadian Special Forces, the JTF-2. Let's take a look at the weapons that Book has available to him. He has to choose between 2 different assault rifles, the first of them being the C8 SFW. Now this weapon does 40 damage, has a fire rate of 837 and a capacity of 30. This is a medium to long range assault rifle that has great damage considering how high its rate of fire is. Now I find it pretty ironic that Book is the operator that has access to this weapon because this thing kicks like a mother trucking mule. And it's very difficult to control the recoil. I would definitely say that this weapon has a high recoil. The other option that Book has available to him is the Cameras marksman rifle. Now this does 69 damage. The fire rate on this is how quickly you can pull the trigger because it's a semi-automatic and has a small capacity of the magazine of 20. Now like I said, this weapon does great damage and that's to be expected considering that it is a semi-automatic marksman rifle and it does this damage from a great range. Overall, both of these weapons are viable, but I just find that the Cameras is a little bit more situational, so I prefer using the C8 SFW. So that's the one that I'm going to recommend to you guys. The attachments I'm going to recommend on the C8 are the ACOG sight as the scope, because I find that an ACOG scope really gives you a bit more of an advantage in terms of what you can see on the map, and being able to see that little bit clearer and a little bit crisper can really help you out when attacking, I find. And I'm also going to recommend the compensator. This is going to give your bullets a slightly tighter spread when prolonged firing of the weapon. But I am also going to recommend that if this is your first time playing Book and you are struggling to tame the wild beast that is the C8 because of its recoil, try putting a holographic sight on the weapon instead of an ACOG because it's going to make that recoil a little bit easier to manage. Also, if you are planning on maining Book, I would recommend spending some time in Terrorist Hunt just to familiarise yourself with the C8's recoil pattern. This is going to give you a better chance of picking heads where it really matters. So when you are going into the ranked online matches, you already have got your shot on point. I mean, remember what they say, practice does indeed make perfect. Book only has access to 1 pistol, and that's the MK1 9mm, but don't worry, it's enough to get the job done. And I would also recommend attaching a silencer to it to take out them pesky cameras and go undetected. For gadget, you have the choice between the stun grenade and the frag grenade. Don't be a fool, go with the frag grenade every time you have the chance, as it's one of the best attacking gadgets on the game, and it's going to come in handy in way more situations as opposed to the stun grenade. So just to sum up Book's optimum loadout, I'm going to recommend going with the C8 SFW with the ACOG and the compensator, the MK1 9mm handgun with the suppressor, and the frag grenade in the gadget slot. Now let's take a look at Book's primary gadget, the skeleton key, which allows him to toggle between his primary AR that you've selected and the underbarrel breaching shotgun, the SK412. Now this gadget is incredibly versatile, but because of that it may take a bit of time to get used to because there's so many uses for it. The first use to it, which may be glaringly obvious, is to switch to it in CQC close quarter situations in order to blow your enemy away. So the first step when using Book's underbarrel shotgun is basically learning what range it is effective at and when best to switch to it. Now this can be very difficult to tell at first, but it does come with time. Now the range on the shotgun itself is relatively decent, and it does also help that it has 5 in the magazine and it has a very fast fire rate, so it's quite forgiving. If you round the corner and you see an enemy, you basically will want to spam all the shells out of that shotgun in order to try and take them down as quick as possible. The only problem with that is only having 5 in the magazine and a rate of fire that quick. You'll tend to find that them shells go very, very quickly, so it's not the best for taking on multiple enemies. You're going to want to toggle between that and your primary weapon as quick as possible if you do run into multiple enemies as you round the corner. In terms of when you do want to be switching to the underbarrel shotgun, if you are defending a room, for instance, take a look at your environment. If it is a close quarters environment and there's not a lot of angles with long sight lines, you're going to want to switch to the underbarrel shotgun because people that are running in are obviously going to be running into a close quarters engagement. But obviously, if there are a lot of long sight lines, you know it's best to switch to your primary weapon as it gives you a greater advantage because you're able to hold down longer sight lines and be effective at multiple ranges. Now, your ears are going to be your best friend when playing Book at first. Try and really listen in to your environment around you, and you'll be able to hear enemies' footsteps. If you are able to hear them, you're going to be able to gauge kind of what distance they're at, and try and plan out the engagement that's about to happen before you. If you can hear them, you might be able to foresee what door they're going to come through and gauge what range it's going to be best to select your weapon at. If you think they're going to be coming close, switch to the underbarrel. If you think that they're going to be far away, stick with your primary AR. The next use for Buck's gadget is to use it as a breaching shotgun. Now, what I mean by this is to destroy walls and doors and hatches in order to break into the objective room. If you shoot his underbarrel shotgun at a destructible wall, it should create a hole big enough to jump through it, and also a hole large enough to see any enemies on the opposite side. So if you do hear an enemy running around on the opposite side of that wall, don't hesitate to blast a hole in it and see if you can create line of sight on them and therefore take them out. Now, although his shotgun, it only takes one round to break a hole in a wall, it does take 3 shots to destroy a wooden door or a wooden window, so he's not as quick as entering rooms as sledges or as stealthy, but it will only take him 2 to 3 shots, and because of the rate of fire, it's quite quick to also destroy hatches. So don't be stingy with your bullets. If you see someone's about to place a breach charge on it and you are on the mic, say don't worry about it, I'll use my shotgun for this, because it allows them to use their breach charge elsewhere. But in my opinion, the best way to play Book is the same way as Sledge. You want to be incredibly aggressive, and you want to try and create as many creative lines of sight on the enemy as possible. Book is able to destroy objects so easily. He's able to quickly create lines of sight on enemies that other operators on your team won't be able to. So that is the best way to use him. An example of this is going above the objective room if possible and destroying the partially destructible flooring, so you can see in between the metal bars, and therefore you've created a line of sight on any anchoring defenders within the objective room, and that allows you to put pressure on them or kill them if you're lucky. But even if you aren't able to get kills, you're going to force them out of their spots. You're going to be able to put a lot of pressure on them, and allowing your teammates who are breaching in from other areas, it's going to give your teammates a better chance of picking up kills when they are breaching in from other areas. Now let's talk about a typical round for Buck. The droning phase is important for Buck because he is a standalone operator. You're going to want to make sure you're keeping track of what defenders the enemy team's using, and if any of them have access to nitrocell. If they do, you want to pay close attention to that, because they're going to be your biggest threat when you do try and breach from above. I'm going to put a picture on screen now of the operators that do have access to C4 that you want to look out for. Also, you're going to want to try and keep out of any defending operators that are about to roam and are going to go to the upstairs, because that's where you're going to want to attack from. So if you can keep an eye on them, you're going to know that there's going to be a defender upstairs and you're less likely to get caught off guard and ambushed. When the round starts, I'd recommend trying to make way above the objective room, then switching to your breaching shotgun and opening up as much as the partially destructible floor as possible, so you can have a look into that objective room and see if you can take out any enemies underneath. After doing this, hold that position or leave it and go and join the rest of your team. After that, your goal should be purely to create as many different creative and obscure lines of sight on the enemy as possible to allow your team to attack from multiple angles, because the more angles your team attacks from, it gives the opponent less places to hide and they're going to get caught in a lot of crossfire, therefore allowing your team to pick up a lot of kills. And that is the best way I think you should play Book, because it's going to benefit your team the most. So that's basically it for my Book guide. I really hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you are enjoying these guides, please also let me know. But that's pretty much it from me. Hope you have a great day, and see you later.
Op 4 eliminated. Friendly mission successful.